The alien warship slowly hovered above Earth, casting a shadow over the planet below. It was unlike anything humans had ever seen before, a massive ship with smooth, metallic surfaces that seemed to shimmer under the light of the sun. The ship was a part of a vast alien fleet that had been exploring the universe for centuries, moving from one world to the next, scanning each planet they came across. They never stayed long, but their scans were precise, revealing everything they needed to know about the civilizations they encountered. They had done it hundreds, thousands of times before, always finding new and strange species. But Earth was different. The alien fleet had detected something unusual here, something that caught their attention like never before. The alien leaders, sitting in their command center aboard the warship, were eager to begin. They had studied Earth from afar for months, collecting data from its satellites, observing its human inhabitants through their advanced technology. And yet, they still knew so little about them. The humans, unlike many other species they had encountered, were unpredictable, difficult to understand. They had developed technologies of war that the aliens found both fascinating and troubling. The humans were still in the early stages of exploring space, but they had already begun to develop weapons that could challenge the might of the alien empire. It was this that drew the aliens to Earth. They needed to understand how this small, seemingly primitive planet had become so powerful. As the alien warship moved closer, its vast size became even more intimidating. The crew aboard the U.S. Defiant, one of Earth's most advanced warships, had been monitoring the skies for days. Captain Harris, the ship's commander, knew the alien fleet was coming. His crew had been on high alert, preparing for any kind of attack. They knew that humanity was not ready to face such a threat, but they also knew they had something the aliens didn't expect: an unyielding spirit. The alien warship's scanners began to glow, a deep, pulsating light that spread across the ship's surface. The moment the light flickered, the signal was sent out, reaching the Defiant. The humans on board felt the surge, an unsettling presence in the air, as if something was reaching into the very heart of their ship. Captain Harris stood at the command center, his eyes narrowing as he watched the screen. He knew what was coming. The alien warship was preparing to scan them. It was an act of dominance, an attempt to learn everything about them in the blink of an eye. "Captain, they've initiated their scan," reported Lieutenant Park, the communications officer, his voice steady but filled with tension. "Prepare the ship," Harris replied, his voice calm but firm. "Stand by for the signal." On the Defiant, every crew member moved quickly, their training kicking in. They had prepared for this moment for months, knowing that the aliens could be watching at any time. The crew had practiced their responses, but nothing could truly prepare them for the unknown threat of an alien warship. As the alien scanners powered up, the Defiant's systems began to react. The advanced technology aboard the warship was designed to withstand any scanning attempts, but even so, the crew felt the pressure of the unknown. The aliens were not just scanning the ship's exterior. They were searching for weaknesses, vulnerabilities, anything they could use against the humans. The scan began, a long, slow process that seemed to last forever. The crew of the Defiant could only watch as the alien warship's scanners swept over them, feeling the eerie sensation of being studied like an insect under a microscope. But there was something the aliens didn't know. They thought they had complete control. They believed that they could easily scan and understand anything they encountered. They had done it thousands of times before, and humanity was just another species to them. But the humans had something they hadn't counted on, something hidden deep inside their warship. For the Defiant was not just any ship. It was equipped with an experimental defense system, one that no alien had ever faced before. This was humanity's final line of defense, a weapon that would be triggered if ever the Earth was under direct threat. The aliens didn't realize that their scan was activating something powerful within the ship's core. As the alien scan continued, the crew on the Defiant remained silent, their eyes fixed on their screens. They could feel the tension building, like a storm waiting to break. The aliens were close now, just a few minutes away from completing their scan. But Captain Harris wasn't worried. He knew the plan, and he knew the crew trusted him. The scan reached its peak, the alien warship's massive sensors now fully locked onto the Defiant. The crew could see the data flowing across their screens, alien readings, alien language, information they couldn't fully understand. Everything about the ship was being mapped, every inch analyzed, every weakness exposed. It was at that moment, when the aliens thought they had everything they needed, that something unexpected happened. The alien scanners suddenly flickered, their readings starting to glitch. A strange wave pulsed from the Defiant, and for a brief moment, the entire alien warship seemed to freeze. The lights inside the ship dimmed, and the air grew heavy. The alien officers were confused, trying to figure out what was happening. Their control systems were malfunctioning, and they couldn't understand why. On the Defiant, Captain Harris stood still, watching the alien ship's behavior. The scan had been interrupted. The aliens had encountered something they had never seen before, a defense mechanism so advanced, it was capable of shutting down even their superior technology. The crew of the Defiant held their breath, watching the events unfold. They knew this was just the beginning. The aliens had underestimated humanity, and now they would see what happened when you made that mistake. For the first time, the aliens were no longer in control. They had thought they were the dominant force in the galaxy, but Earth was about to show them that there was power in the most unexpected places. The Defiant was ready, and so was humanity. The alien warship's scanners flickered and buzzed, causing chaos among the alien crew. For a moment, everything was silent, like the calm before a storm. The alien officers looked at each other in confusion, unsure of what was happening. Their advanced technology, something they had relied on for centuries, had failed. They had never encountered a malfunction like this. The commanding officer, a tall, humanoid figure with dark skin and glowing eyes, stood up sharply from his seat. His eyes darted from screen to screen, watching the strange readings that now filled the control room. "What's going on?" he demanded, his voice sharp with anger. "We don't know, Commander. The scan is not completing. The systems are interfering with each other. There's a blockage." The technician's voice trembled, uncertain of how to explain the unexplainable. The commander growled in frustration, his mind racing as he tried to assess the situation. Earth was supposed to be just another simple planet, a primitive world filled with weak, unimportant creatures. The Defiant was a human warship, but it wasn't supposed to be this powerful. The aliens had made their calculations, believing that the humans would be easy to dominate once they understood their technology. But now, they were beginning to understand that they had underestimated them. Back aboard the Defiant, Captain Harris remained calm, his face focused on the screens in front of him. He could sense the tension in the air, even though the crew was silent. They had prepared for this moment. They knew the aliens would try to scan them, and they had a defense in place. But this wasn't just any defense. It was a last resort weapon, one that had been designed to protect humanity from any threat, no matter how advanced. And now, the time had come to use it. Lieutenant Park, the communications officer, looked up from his station. "Captain, we've detected a significant malfunction on their ship. The scan is being blocked, but their systems are still unstable. They're trying to regain control." "Hold steady," Harris ordered, his voice steady and reassuring. "We don't know how long this will last, but we need to be ready. If they make a move, we respond with everything we've got." The crew nodded, silently going to work. The ship hummed with activity as systems were adjusted, and the ship's defenses were brought online. The Defiant wasn't just a symbol of Earth's military power. It was humanity's last line of defense, a testament to what the species was capable of when pushed to the brink. On the alien ship, the commander paced nervously. He had never seen anything like this. The scan was supposed to be quick and effortless, but now, the systems were malfunctioning, and their view of the human warship was distorted. He leaned forward, his face illuminated by the strange flickering light coming from the control panel. "Get the scans back online now," he demanded. "I want to know everything about that ship, everything about their defenses." The alien officers scrambled to obey, but nothing seemed to work. The Defiant was a mystery, and the aliens could not penetrate its secrets. The commander's mind raced. What were these humans hiding? What kind of weapon could block their most advanced scanners? It was clear now that Earth was not the simple world they had expected. The humans had something more, something they weren't ready for. Meanwhile, Captain Harris looked up at the screen. The malfunction was lasting longer than expected, and there was no sign of the aliens making any immediate move. He didn't trust them to retreat, not yet. This wasn't just about a scan anymore. They had invaded Earth's space, and they were going to learn the hard way that humanity would not back down. "Status update, Lieutenant Park," Harris asked, keeping his voice even. "Their systems are still down, Captain. It looks like they're having trouble recalibrating their scan. It's our chance." "Not yet," Harris replied. "We wait." As the minutes ticked by, tension grew on both ships. The alien warship was still hovering above Earth, its engines silent, its scanners still not working. Every alien officer on board was aware of the growing frustration, the uncertainty of what to do next, but the commander remained determined. They could not leave without completing their mission. They had to learn everything about the humans. They needed to understand what made them so different from every other species they had encountered. Suddenly, a sharp beeping broke the silence. The technician turned to the commander, his face filled with a mix of relief and worry. "Commander, we've got it. The scan is back online," the technician said. "But there's something wrong." The commander leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "What do you mean, something wrong?" "It's hard to explain, sir," the technician began, his hands flying across the controls. "It looks like the data we're receiving. It's incomplete. It's almost like the ship is fighting the scan. It's resisting." The commander's eyes widened. "Resisting? How is that possible?" The technician was at a loss for words. "We don't know, Commander. We're trying to recalibrate, but the interference is too strong." As the alien officers struggled with their malfunctioning systems, the crew of the Defiant remained vigilant. Captain Harris knew that the next few moments were crucial. They had only one shot at this. If the aliens regained control of their scanners, humanity would be in serious trouble. But for now, they had the upper hand, and Harris wasn't going to waste it. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Harris ordered. "If they get their systems back online, we may need to move quickly." The crew nodded, their faces serious. They knew that the fate of Earth rested on their shoulders. If they didn't act fast enough, the aliens would regain control and the scan would be completed. And with that knowledge, they would be able to find a way to destroy the Defiant and conquer Earth. But Captain Harris was determined. He had fought too long and too hard to let this moment slip away. This was humanity's time to fight back. The tension aboard both ships was palpable as the alien fleet struggled to regain control of their malfunctioning systems. On the Defiant, the crew was silent, each member aware of the gravity of their situation. Captain Harris stood firm at the command center, his hands clasped behind his back as he monitored the alien warship's movements. He knew that the moment the aliens fixed their scan, they would have the upper hand once again. But for now, they were in the dark, and that was humanity's chance to strike. Lieutenant Park's voice broke the silence. "Captain, their scanners are starting to come back online. It looks like they're getting a reading." Harris turned, his face hard as stone. "Are we ready?" "Aye, Captain," Park replied. "We've activated the defense protocols, and the energy pulse is primed. If they complete the scan, we can trigger it. It'll be our only shot." The pulse was Earth's secret weapon, a last-ditch defense designed to stop even the most powerful alien forces in their tracks. The Defiant was equipped with this experimental system, an energy wave that would disrupt any foreign technology, no matter how advanced. It wasn't just a defensive measure. It was humanity's declaration that they would never be overrun, that they would fight until their last breath. The aliens had no idea what was coming. The alien commander's voice echoed through the quiet control room of the warship. "Get the scans working. We cannot let them escape. We need to know everything. Now." The alien officers scrambled to adjust their equipment, trying desperately to fix the interference. They could feel their ship losing control, but they were determined. They had to complete their mission. There was no other choice. "We're getting partial data," one of the technicians reported. "It's not perfect, but it's enough. The humans have some sort of defense we didn't expect. Their ship's systems are shielded in a way that's unlike anything we've encountered before, but we have enough to proceed." The commander's eyes narrowed. "Proceed. The scan must be completed." The technician hesitated, uncertainty creeping into his voice. "Sir, the interference is still growing. We don't have full control. If we continue, we risk damaging our own systems." The commander's patience snapped. "Continue the scan. We'll figure out the consequences later." As the alien crew worked under pressure, the Defiant's systems hummed, and the crew braced for what was to come. Captain Harris kept his eyes fixed on the alien warship, watching for any sign that they were about to launch an attack. The pulse was primed, but the timing was everything. If they triggered it too soon, the alien fleet might not feel the full impact. But if they waited too long, it could be too late. A soft beep echoed through the Defiant's command center. Lieutenant Park glanced at her screen. "Captain, their scan is almost complete. We need to trigger the pulse now." Harris' heart raced, but his face remained calm. "Do it. Now." With a press of a button, a low hum vibrated through the ship. The energy pulse began to build, a surge of power that traveled to the ship's core. The alien warship, still hovering in space, continued its scan, unaware of what was about to happen. And then it hit. A burst of energy, powerful and pure, surged from the Defiant and shot straight toward the alien fleet. The pulse washed over the alien warship like a tidal wave, and in an instant, everything went black. The alien ship trembled as its systems sputtered and failed. The lights in the command center flickered, and the control panels erupted in static. For the first time, the aliens were blind. They could no longer see the Defiant on their scanners. The very systems they relied on to dominate and conquer were useless. The alien commander screamed in fury as his screens went dark. "What is happening? Why can't we see them? What have you doing?" His officers scrambled, their panic growing. But there was no way to reverse what had been done. The pulse had scrambled the alien technology, rendering their scanners, weapons, and control systems completely useless. The Defiant had disappeared from their screens. And now, they were at the mercy of the human warship. "Captain, the pulse has worked," Lieutenant Park confirmed, her voice steady but filled with awe. "We've completely disrupted their systems. They're blind." Harris nodded grimly. "Now we finish this. Full power to the engines. Prepare to engage." On the alien warship, the crew was in complete chaos. They had never experienced anything like this before. Their ship was vulnerable, unarmed, and unable to track their enemies. It was a nightmare scenario, but the commander was not one to admit defeat. His mind raced, trying to think of a way to salvage the mission. The scan had failed, but there was still time. They couldn't allow the humans to escape. No, they had to recover and finish what they had started. "Recalibrate the weapons," the commander shouted. "We'll fight them in close combat. We can't rely on our scanners anymore, but we can still use our firepower. We may not have our fleet's support, but we are still stronger than they are." But the alien commander's words were hollow. The truth was, the Defiant had already taken the first strike. The energy pulse had not only disabled their systems, but also given the humans the upper hand. The aliens were no longer the aggressors. They had become the hunted. On the Defiant, The crew felt the shift in power. For the first time in the battle, they were on the offensive. Captain Harris's orders were swift and precise as he directed the crew to focus their fire on the now vulnerable alien warship. The human warship's cannons came to life, firing powerful beams that tore into the alien ship's hull. The alien vessel trembled, its shields faltering under the human assault. "Their shields are failing, Captain," reported Lieutenant Park. "We're breaking through." Harris nodded, his grip tightening on the chair. "Keep pushing. They're not getting away." The alien ship, now without functioning scanners, was unable to predict the Defiant's next move. It was caught in a vicious cycle of destruction, unable to fight back effectively. The human crew, fueled by the knowledge that their home was at stake, pressed their advantage. They had seen what the aliens were capable of, and they knew that there was no turning back now. The alien commander gritted his teeth. His ship was on the verge of destruction. They had underestimated humanity, and now they would pay the price. The alien warship was reeling from the effects of the pulse. Its once mighty engines sputtered, and its weapon systems were now little more than dead weight. Every blast from the Defiant seemed to tear into its hull, each shot a reminder of how vastly underestimated the humans had been. The commander's mind raced as he realized how much they had lost in just a matter of minutes. The ship was failing, and with it, his mission. "Status report," he barked, his voice thick with desperation. We can't repair the systems, Commander," a technician called out from the console. "The pulse scrambled everything. We can't restore power to the shields. The weapons are useless. We're sitting ducks." The commander's chest tightened. Their warship was one of the most advanced in the galaxy, and now it was as helpless as a newborn. Their pride, their arrogance, it had all been shattered by a single human ship. The alien empire had never faced an enemy like this. They had traveled across countless worlds, conquering everything in their path. But here, on Earth, they had met their match. "Continue fighting," the commander commanded, though his voice was less sure than before. "We cannot fail now. If we lose, the fleet will never forgive us." The alien officers exchanged uncertain glances. They had no way to track the Defiant, no way to accurately fire their weapons. The alien warship was doomed, and they all knew it. But the commander refused to give up. He would go down fighting, no matter the cost. Meanwhile, on the Defiant, Captain Harris stood at the helm, watching the alien warship as it struggled to hold its ground. The Defiant had taken its first victory, but Harris knew they couldn't let up. The alien ship might be disabled, but it was still dangerous. And there was always the threat that more alien ships could arrive. They had to finish this, and they had to do it quickly. "Fire at will," Harris ordered, his voice steady but resolute. The crew moved with precision. The Defiant's guns roared to life again, its weapons pounding the alien ship's hull with unrelenting force. Each blast created a fiery explosion, and the alien warship groaned under the pressure. The hull was beginning to crack, its defenses shattered. But the battle wasn't over yet. Lieutenant Park's voice came through the intercom, sharp and clear. "Captain, the alien ship is beginning to send out distress signals. They're calling for reinforcements." Harris' eyes narrowed. "How long do we have?" "Not long, sir. The signals are strong. It's only a matter of time before backup arrives." The words hung in the air. The alien warship had no chance of surviving the attack, but the real danger lay in the reinforcements. If more alien ships arrived, the Defiant would be outnumbered, and Earth's defenses would crumble. "We need to finish this now," Harris said, his voice hard. "All hands, focus fire on their main reactor. Let's put an end to this once and for all." The crew sprang into action. Every blast from the Defiant now aimed at the heart of the alien ship. The alien warship, already on the verge of collapse, shuddered violently with each shot. Sparks flew from broken consoles, and the alien commander could do nothing but watch as the end drew near. His ship was falling apart, and he knew that there was nothing more they could do. The Defiant fired one final shot, a massive blast that hit the alien ship's core. The explosion was cataclysmic. The alien warship's entire structure was torn apart, and a shockwave rippled through space. The once proud vessel that had threatened Earth now lay in ruins, its pieces scattered across the void. On the Defiant, the crew watched as the alien ship disintegrated. The threat had been neutralized, but Harris knew it wasn't over yet. The alien fleet was still out there, and they would come looking for revenge. They had learned a painful lesson today, that humans were not to be underestimated. But there was no guarantee that the aliens would back down. If anything, this defeat might make them more determined than ever. "Status report, Lieutenant Park," Harris asked, his voice steady despite the enormity of what had just happened. "Alien ship destroyed, Captain." "No survivors," Park replied. "But we've detected additional ships, several of them, heading toward our position." Harris' eyes darkened. "How long?" "At current speed, about 20 minutes, Park answered. The crew fell silent as the weight of the situation sank in. They had won the battle, but the war was far from over. And now, they had to face the consequences of their actions. "We can't fight them all off," Lieutenant Park added, the tension evident in her voice. "We're too far from reinforcements, and our resources are limited. We'll need to come up with a plan fast." Captain Harris nodded, his expression grim. "We've taken the first step. We've shown them that we're not helpless. We've given them a taste of what humanity is capable of. Now we need to make sure they understand this was no accident. Earth is off limits." Harris' mind raced as he considered their options. They couldn't just sit and wait for the reinforcements to arrive. The alien fleet was too powerful, and they had no idea how many ships were coming. But one thing was clear. They needed a plan, and they needed it fast. "Lieutenant Park, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we've engaged the alien fleet. We need all available ships to our location as soon as possible. We've destroyed one ship, but we'll need more firepower if we're going to hold them off." Park nodded and quickly got to work, sending the message to Earth Command. As the Defiant braced itself for the next wave of attackers, Harris stood tall, his mind focused on the task at hand. He had led his crew to victory, but the battle was far from over. The alien threat was real, and Earth's survival depended on their ability to keep fighting. It was time to show the aliens that humanity would not bow down. It was time to remind them that Earth was no easy conquest. The Defiant hummed with activity as the crew prepared for the imminent arrival of the alien reinforcements. Captain Harris stood at the command center, his face a mask of determination. They had won the battle against the alien warship, but it was clear that this was just the beginning. The alien fleet was vast, and Earth was about to face a war unlike any it had ever seen. But for the first time in history, humanity had proven that they were not helpless. They had shown the aliens that Earth would not fall easily. "Lieutenant Park, have we received any word from Earth Command?" Harris asked, his tone sharp. Park's eyes were glued to her screen as she analyzed incoming data. "Still no response, Captain. I've sent the message, but it'll take time for reinforcements to arrive. It's a long distance, and our signal is being jammed." Harris clenched his jaw. Time was not a luxury they had. The alien fleet was only minutes away, and the Defiant could not hold out against multiple warships for long. They had to act fast. Harris turned to his crew. "We need a strategy. We can't take on a fleet this size head-on. Our best bet is to buy ourselves some time until reinforcements arrive," he said, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Lieutenant Park looked up from her screen. "We could use the asteroid field as cover. If we set a course through it, we might be able to evade their scanners. It won't stop their ships from attacking, but it'll slow them down and make it harder for them to pinpoint us." Harris thought for a moment. The asteroid field was a risky move, chaotic and unpredictable. But it was their best shot. The Defiant was fast, and its maneuverability was one of its greatest assets. If they could use the field to their advantage, they might be able to stay one step ahead of the alien fleet. Set a course for the asteroid field. Full speed ahead, Harris ordered. The crew quickly adjusted the ship's trajectory, sending the Defiant hurtling toward the dense field of asteroids. Outside the ship's viewport, rocky giants floated in space, their jagged edges creating a maze of obstacles. It was a dangerous route, but if they played their cards right, it could be their escape. As the Defiant entered the asteroid field, the crew braced themselves for what was about to come. The ship veered sharply, dodging massive chunks of rock that flew by at breakneck speeds. The hum of the engines intensified as they pushed the ship to its limits, weaving through the dangerous debris field with expert precision. Lieutenant Park was focused, her fingers flying across the controls. "Captain, the alien ships are coming into range. They're preparing to fire." "We'll make them work for it," Harris said, his voice grim but resolute. "Brace for impact. Don't let them get a clear shot." The alien ships, now within striking distance, began to fire. Bright flashes lit up the space around them as the Defiant expertly dodged each blast, narrowly avoiding the deadly beams. But the alien ships weren't about to give up so easily. They were closing in, their weapons firing relentlessly. "We can't keep this up forever," Lieutenant Park warned. "We're losing power in the shields. The asteroid field is slowing us down too much." Harris glanced at the readouts. The Defiant was taking hits. The ship's hull groaned under the strain of the battle, and the shields were beginning to flicker. They couldn't keep dodging forever. The asteroid field was their last hope for a quick escape. "Activate the energy pulse," Harris ordered. "Let's give them something to think about." Park hesitated for only a moment before confirming, "Aye, Captain." Energy pulse activated. A low hum filled the ship as the Defiant charged up its final weapon, the same energy pulse that had disabled the first alien warship. The pulse wasn't just a defensive mechanism. It was also an offensive weapon capable of disrupting entire fleets. With a final burst of energy, the pulse was launched. The shockwave rippled outward, sending a wave of power toward the approaching alien ships. The lead alien ship was caught off guard, its systems flickering and shutting down as the pulse hit it directly. The ship's weapons went offline, and its shields failed. The alien fleet staggered as the pulse continued to travel through their ranks, causing chaos among the alien ships. For the first time, the humans had the upper hand. "We've taken out their lead ship," Park shouted, her voice filled with triumph. But Harris knew this was just a temporary advantage. The alien fleet was still massive, and the battle was far from over. They had to keep moving, keep fighting, until reinforcements arrived. The Defiant was damaged, its shields weakening, and the alien ships were closing in again. The window of opportunity was shrinking. "Get us to Earth as fast as possible," Harris ordered. "We'll take the fight to them if we have to." But as the Defiant sped toward Earth, the sensors picked up something alarming. More ships. A fleet was emerging from the far side of the asteroid field. Massive, hulking vessels that dwarfed the previous fleet. They had arrived. The crew's worst fears had come true. The alien invasion was no longer a localized threat. It was a full-scale assault on Earth. But the humans weren't going to back down. The Defiant had already proven that Earth could fight back. "Captain, Earth Command has sent reinforcements," Park said. "They're on their way, but it'll be at least another hour before they can reach us." Harris' mind raced. "We don't have that long. We fight. We delay them. Earth's future depends on this." The crew of the Defiant stood together, prepared to face the alien fleet head-on. They had no illusions about the odds. They knew they might not survive this battle, but they were human, and they would never surrender. Earth had already shown the universe what humanity was capable of. Now, they would fight to make sure the aliens knew that Earth would never fall.